Get my banner
All right.
on.
We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our UFC Sioux Falls. That's how you say it, Sioux Falls?
Yeah.
Close enough. South Dakota, Sioux Falls. There you go. Welcome to our Sioux Falls pre-fight show presented by CrossBonesMMA. My name is Dave. That's Dave. I'm Eddie. God damn it. I'm reading this I'm all out of it, all right? It's been a long day. So that's Dave out of ABQ, ESPN Radio. How you doing, man?
Good, Eddie. Yeah, glad to get on. And yeah, it's kind of a odd card we got this Wednesday. Break it down. A couple good fights. Some good hometown guys on the card. Some good RFA guys. So pretty decent card we got lined up here.
Yeah. No, and you know, I'm not a fan of the Wednesday cards. And like, I don't know about you, but I'm a little MMA'd out from the weekend. But you know, hey, look, we get cards. We're used to getting cards like every weekend, so we're kind of used to it. But like 3 days after 3 days or 4 days after the last one, it's like, all right, we gotta watch another one, you know. So and I feel like I'm complaining. I'm really not. I'm just tired. It's kind of what it is. Anyway, let's talk about some other stuff before we get to the breakdown. First, UFC 200. First of all, did it? I don't know. My personal opinion, it did not deliver to me. Right? The hype was super hyped up, and to me, it did not deliver. What did you think of the card?
Yeah, I mean, it just really the week that, you know, everything that went down with John and, you know, all the fallout for that, them getting Anderson Silva basically coming off an autograph session to Vegas, getting him in there. But it all made sense to where, you know, Daniel Cormier got a payday. You know, he's truly devastated for the John Jones, for him, you know, having to be canceled and thrown off the biggest card that they supposedly thought they'd be putting on. But just a real strange event. I think the Nunez fight was pretty awesome. Nunez coming out, you know, taking care of business against Misha. Everybody thought Misha, you know, was super tough, able to, you know, be a champion, be able to defend her title, which is still a continuing trend where somebody gets it in immediate, you know, loss the second fight that they're trying to defend. So, yeah, the Brock Lesnar fight, you know, very strange because everybody, you know, predicted that one to be a 1 round, you know, 2 round at most knockout on either side. Mm-hmm. But then again, you know, Brock got the win. We'll see what they do with Brock going forward. Some earlier action, you know, Gegard Mousasi, you know, proving that he's still right there in the mix at 185. A crazy turn of events, and we had Diego Sanchez finish for the first time. So yeah, you caught the card in it. If you caught the card in its entirety, I mean, yeah, early on, you know, there's all the, you know, mix up with the Fight Pass with Fight Pass and FS1. So caught the early action. You know, there's definitely some nice knockouts. So good night though.
Yeah, you know what? It's first of all, speaking about Diego Sanchez, I did not believe he'd ever be finished, and for Joe Lozon to do it the way he did it was incredible. Now, you know, Diego Sanchez, man, and look, you see this guy a lot over in Albuquerque. Like, I mean, to me, it's like every time I see him fight and he loses, or even if he wins, like he just never looks good after a fight. I'm always, because he takes so much damage, I'm always like, dude, please stop. But I mean, he seems like even any interview he did, he's like, this is the best I've felt in a long time. I'm better now than I've ever been. You know, what do you think about Diego Sanchez and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Diego, you know, getting into wars in the gym. I mean, there's been plenty, you know, lately with Diego Brando. So I've seen them go at it pretty, you know, getting pretty intense in that gym. But Diego's just that way. That's how he operates. He's a tough competitor. You know, then again, this time around, you know, just him getting finished the way he did as quickly as Joe finished the fight. I mean, nobody's seen that coming. So it was just a night where, you know, a lot of stuff, just, you know, unexpected events, unexpected upsets, I guess you could say, somewhat. Not all the way through the card. I mean, like I said, Gegard Mousasi proved that, you know, he's right there. And as we all know, too, now that we're coming to find out that Gegard Mousasi, you know, was offered the fight against Daniel Cormier. You know, he was one of the top guys, you know, near the end. So I guess he initially was the guy that they said that, you know, that was going to be the opponent. And then they ended up going about changing it to Anderson Silva. So that's kind of strange. But then again, going forward, Gegard's a contender. Lozon, you know, proven, you know, fight of the night bonus king, you know, put another one, you know, added to the list. So yeah, that's just something where, you know, Diego going forward, I think he's going to be, you know, possibly another fight or two. I know Diego's not going to, you know, go out on a loss. You know, knowing him, I think he's going to want to get back in there and compete once again, whether it's possibly 145, 155. I see him getting back in there.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's you know, he wants to be so active. Look, it's about getting money, making money, right? You're hearing a lot of guys talk about, I want a money fight. Vitor Belfort, I want a money fight with Anderson Silva. What's his name? Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis saying, oh, I want a money fight. Whatever makes sense. You pay me money, I'll do it. I'll fight Brock Lesnar, right? It's about getting paid, and so you know, Diego Sanchez is gonna want to get more money for sure, and he's not above, you know, going in there and getting knocked out to do it. So, I mean, unfortunately, he didn't get a bonus, of course, but Joe Lozon got a bonus for a nice knockout. That was great. Another fight, and you're talking about Gerard Mousasi. The way he knocked out Santos was insane. Like, they were on the ground. So, you know, Mousasi gets up. Santos pops up forward and eats an uppercut and goes to sleep. Like, that was just, like, yeah. Well, would you do that, dude? You don't get up that way. You butt scoot backwards and then get up if you want. But Mousasi didn't want to be on the ground with him anyway. You know, he wanted to stand back up. So, that was a weird fight, a weird finish to me for sure. What was the other one that was a weird fight? Pena Zingano was like, all right, but the Cain Velasquez fight was legit, dude. It was fucking awesome to see Cain back. And in fact, you know what was crazy about that? He you know, Cain's always been good about closing the distance, but he used to do it the conventional way, you know, throwing as many punches, you know, jabs, overhand rights, and then closing distance to shoot or whatever. He did it with wheel kicks. He did that one wheel kick that kind of landed on Travis, and Travis started going backwards, and then Cain just rushed forward and started whooping the shit out of him. It was crazy. So, you know, do you think, like, now, I mean, Cain's been gone for a while. Clearly his game's evolved, right? Do you think Cain's back in the contender picture?
Oh yeah, definitely good to see Cain, you know, looking like Cain in there. A much credit, I think, due to training partner Chopper Chai, Chai Lewis Perry, working over there at AKA. So both Cormier and they both just benefited from having that guy in the gym, and they're both fighting on the card. So Cain and DC, you know, going into this event, were extremely confident. It's usually, you know, kind of the opposite. I mean, if there's two guys at the same gym, you know, high profile fighters, it's somewhat of a curse. It's a gift and a curse sometimes. But then again, in this scenario, I thought that it really benefited Daniel Cormier and Cain, in which Cain showcased, that he had a great training camp. He really paced himself, you know, looked out for injuries, tried to prevent them as much as possible. But DC, on the other hand, you know, he had the big money fight. He was going to be the main event. It was just a great training camp for both guys. Absolutely. I know we didn't see the DC we'd all wanted to see against Johnny, but you can't really kind of gauge that against Anderson Silva. It's a fight on 2 days notice. I mean, you know how those go. I mean, it's just you're never going to see the guy you think you're going to see in there when it's a short notice fight. So Cain, on the other hand, is back, you know, in the mix. It's going to be interesting who they line him up with. I've heard, you know, talk, you know, Brock Lesnar. People are thinking Brock, but then again, Cain's coming after that title, so he's only one fight, you know, removed from the belt, from being the champion. So I think he gets back in there, and yeah, he's got plenty of fight left in him. Absolutely, Eddie.
Yeah, you know what he's talking about. He actually wants the winner of Stipe versus Overeem. Which, look, you want to say strike when the iron's hot. Iron's hot on Cain. It's hot as shit, especially with what he did, and honestly, being the most exciting fight on that main card pretty easily. You know, so I would not at all doubt that he would get the winner of a Stipe versus Overeem. Mike Jarvis on the YouTube. What's up, dude? He says it's about time. I told you boys Nunez would win. I did say knockout, but that was even better. You know, the way she choked that Tate. And he says that was the worst Travis Brown we've ever seen. And you know what? Ever since Travis Brown moved over to Glendale Fight Club, you know, to be with his girlfriend, he's looked pretty shitty. I mean, he didn't evolve. He didn't get better, and he didn't even stay the same. He regressed, right? I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I used to see Travis, you're training here at Jackson. I think he used to, you know, have a place nearby where I stay. I used to see him running up and down the road. Yeah, they used to use a lot of kicks. You know, when Travis was here, he looked real, you know, he was aggressive with kicks. I mean, even though he was a big, giant guy, I mean, he really was, you know, was capable of doing that, and they had that in his arsenal. But over there training, you know, in California, what's the name of the gym, Rousey's gym? I mean, there's just been so much, like, kind of controversy hanging over that gym, and just, you know, they're just not, you know, not focused on fighting. I mean, yeah, I guess, you know, Travis is, you know, that's Ronda Rousey's, you know, that's his lady, so he's going to stay at that camp. Like you said, the regress is kind of showcasing itself. Travis always seems to find himself in, you know, big, high-profile heavyweight fights. He's a top guy. He just can't seem to get over the hump. I mean, he's been in some wars too as well. But this fight here with Cain, it was all kind of, you know, I mean, Cain wanted to make a statement and then move back up into the talks of the title, and which he did.
Yeah, and their aggressing Travis Brown ran into a motivated, hungry, and just insanely focused Cain Velasquez. It was just honestly, it was just a bad night for Travis Brown. And you're right, Glendale Fight Club in California, in Glendale, California. It is, dude. I just look. I'm not a coach. I don't like to talk shit about coaches. But if we look at the resume, like Ronda Rousey probably won all those fights on her own. You know what I mean? Like everyone sees her. They've seen her. You know, Ronda Rousey shadow box is a joke now. They use that as a meme. You know what I mean? Like those videos or those gifs of Ronda Rousey for shadow boxing are funny to people now because she looks kind of ridiculous. It doesn't look good, you know. And so now you start thinking about Edmund, you know, Coach Edmund whatever the hell his last name is. You're just like, this dude can't be an MMA coach. Gets Jake Ellenberger. Ellenberger gets knocked out. Gets Travis Brown. Travis Brown gets knocked out. You know, Ronda just got knocked out. She rushed after a kickboxer who's won titles in kickboxing. Like, I mean, it's just. I mean, shit that should be common sense. Shit that Greg Jackson would look at if Holly Holm was not Greg Jackson's fighter. If they switched places, Greg Jackson would have been like, yeah, you're not rushing Holly Holm. Holly Holm's going to come to you. You're going to take her down as soon as you can and take her arm off. You know what I mean? You're not rushing her. Your boxing's not that good. You know what I mean? And instead, Edmund's like, you're great. Go, rush her. I mean, you know, come the fuck on, right?
Yeah, I would have much rather have seen more progression, more work done with Brandon Gibson and Greg Jackson with Travis. I mean, I don't know what the fallout was with him leaving, but I remember he said, just kind of he wasn't looking to use the style that they were trying to implement in his game, but it's in which he was most effective. I mean, this is when he was in the most high profile fights is when he was affiliated with Jackson. So he's on a bit of dip on his career now. So I think he knows that. And going forward, if they'll put him up against, a tough, high-profile opponent, I think that probably Mark Hunt maybe is one of those guys they may throw in there. But there's a couple ideas for Travis going forward. He's still got plenty of fight. The heavyweight division is what it is right now. Kind of, we know who's next. We're in that type of mood now. Stipe's got the fight booked, so Cain's eyeing that fight. He's fresh. He didn't take really any damage. So I think that looking possible New York City booking on that one, Eddie.
Wouldn't be surprised, man. They do want Cain in there. Now Jose Aldo, dude. Frankie Edgar looks sharp, but Jose Aldo looked better. If you look at the just physically, the Jose Aldo that fought a couple nights ago, and the Jose Aldo that fought Conor McGregor, way different. The Aldo that fought McGregor looked soft, weak, and just completely unconfident. I mean, he looked nervous as hell. The Jose Aldo that fought Frankie Edgar, on point. He was ripped, clearly in shape. Yep. And confident and ready to go. We finally, I mean, look, people are wondering, are we going to get a new Jose Aldo that's not ready, that's completely different, or we're going to get the old Jose Aldo? I think we got the old Jose Aldo, but better. I mean, he looks dangerous as hell, and I honestly can't wait for that rematch. What would you think of Jose Aldo?
Yeah, that fight I really enjoyed. I'm a big fan of both guys. I'm a real big fan of Frankie Edgar. I think they kind of, they kept, denying Frankie the big fights. I mean, they made him, fight everybody in which you can't beat everybody, Eddie, in this division stacked full of killers at the top, where Frankie's fighting nothing but killers. He's in a title fight all the time. He's been to so many of them. So this past weekend on Saturday was a night where, Frankie rolled the dice a bit. But then again, if Jose Aldo did lose, back-to-back losses, wasn't going to look good for Jose Aldo going forward. But it's one of those things where I guess Tony Ferguson on this same card is in that situation. He's on a big streak. Max Holloway's on a streak, and they haven't fought for the title. So Frankie, definitely, put his best effort out there. Aldo was familiar with him, as we all know, they fought before. But like you mentioned, it's definitely stood out to me and stood out to many people in the MMA community. Aldo did look way fresher. He looked focused. And like I mentioned to you in the comments, I think I messaged you during the event. I said, Jose looked the way he should have against Conor, against Frankie. So it's kind of ironic that it ended up that route. I don't know if he kind of just didn't, he underestimated Conor, obviously. You get put out in 13 seconds, you're underestimating your opponent somewhat. But he dove in there. Conor put him out. I want to see the rematch. I hope that matchup is set, real soon, regardless of what the outcome of the Nate Diaz fight is.
Clearly, yeah, and the belt, obviously, the belt's not up for grabs against Nate Diaz, so that belt's still going to be there, win or lose. That's the fight to make. I mean, you gotta unify the title, so that's good. We're gonna see that as long as no one gets injured. Now, Mike Jarvis says we got the Aldo who wants to defend his belt, 100%. That's the guy who we saw for 10 years. And now, okay, well, let's move on here too. I mean, look, we don't have to talk about Brock Lesnar fight. That fight just happened. You know what I mean, it just happened. Mm-hmm. So let's talk Nunes and Tate. Tate, look, full credit to Nunes, all right? Every shot she landed, you heard a snap. Like, I don't know, like, if you were at a bar at home, but I was actually at my buddy's house, and it was quiet where we were. And every time she landed a punch, you heard the pop, and it was loud. She was throwing tanks, you know what I mean? And then to finish it the way she did was incredible. Now, I don't know about you, but this is my take on Tate. I don't think Tate was anywhere near 100%. Now, I don't know if you watched the weigh-ins, the early ones. I watched them on Periscope. Brett Akamoto was there from ESPN. He was doing them on Periscope. So she actually weighed in literally last minute, like literally the very last minute she could. Weighed in, and she had to strip down at the scale to make weight. And here's where I started to think there was a problem. She made weight. She looked relieved, and her coach cheered. You heard him on the Periscope, on the video, cheering. He was excited that she made weight. I don't think they thought she was going to make weight. So my first thought was, okay, maybe an injury, maybe the weight cut was that rough, and they just completely underestimated it and screwed it up, right? So then fast forward to fight night, and you see the video and how they do those, and the fighters are walking into the building. They had her walking in, barely holding Brian Caraway's hand, and her face not looking focused, looking scared, like visibly scared and nervous, right? And then her walk to the cage, the same thing. Standing in front of Nunes, same thing. And when the fight started, she looked like she was double guessing every step she was taking. And it was just not the Miesha Tate that we're used to seeing, I don't think. So not making an excuse at all for her or saying that that's the reason she lost. 100% Tate and 100% Nunes. Nunes probably could have still knocked her out or knocked her down and taken her back and choked her out because she did bust the shit out of her face and all that pretty badly. Bad enough to where Tate was holding a towel on her face at the press conference and she was not removing it. Like, she was still bleeding out of her nose, supposedly.
Oh,
yeah. So, my opinion, something was wrong with Tate. Mentally or physically, but something was wrong with Tate. And good for Nunes for taking advantage of it and popping her in the mouth and taking that belt from her. But what was your take on the fight?
Yeah, you made a good couple points there, Eddie. I pay attention to all the stuff when it's the fighters' reactions to weigh-ins, how they look. Unusually, Miesha was pretty aggressive at the stare down. Mm-hmm. That's something where she hardly does. I mean, against Ronda, that's one thing where you've seen her do that, but Miesha's normally not like that. Everybody knows that she barely made weight. The fight was almost called off at some point. Mm-hmm. It came pretty close, like you said. So all those signs put together, and then I'm one guy to really kind of there's just something about when it's championship fights specifically, when you see fighters walk out, I get a certain read on them when they're walking out, whether it's the fight shorts they're wearing, some of the attire that makes them, whether it's, just stuff that's like customary to them. Donald Cerrone has his own style. There's always something about it. I mean, when I seen Chris Weidman walk out against Luke Rockhold, just from him walking out and just the look of it, I knew that was going to be a bad night for him. I mean, I'm saying that now, but honestly, in the moment, Eddie, there's been plenty of cards where I've seen tons of world title fights, and Miesha just had that look. And then coming out, like you said, there was a sign that, of just, not very confident, I guess you could say. And Nunes had all the confidence in the world. She knew she was capable of beating Miesha. She showed that. She really hurt her on the feet. Everybody, knows Miesha to be a tough opponent, not an easy out. Nunes put her out rather quickly and had an excellent game plan. Props to her. She's going to be something to deal with whoever the next opponent is. It's going to be interesting, Eddie.
Yeah, they better be able to take a shot and have some good cardio because Nunes throws tanks, man. And then one more thing on Tate. On her walkout, and the only reason I noticed it because the first few times she walked out to that Katy Perry song, she walked out to that Hear Me Roar shit, whatever the name of that song is. Every time I've seen her walk out to it, she mouths the words. Didn't do that this time. Not that I saw. She didn't do it at all. Yeah. And she normally does. She's singing along with the song and everything. Nothing. I got nothing from her. And so, I added all those things up while she was walking out, and I was like, oh, geez. And as soon as she got in the cage, just her movement alone, I was like, fuck. Nunes is going to fuck her up. So. Yeah, and another thing that I thought was weird, I always pay attention to, or something maybe for everybody, for listeners, or for you to look out for, is there was an unusual trend of there wasn't a glove touch all in world title fights. There was a consistent streak where titles were changing hands without the glove touch. So I paid really close attention to that on all the title fights last week. All the title fights, they did touch hands. The titles did change hands with Nunes and Miesha, but there was a touch. But the night before, I think Joanna and Claudia broke that streak because they did. I didn't think they were going to touch. They did touch.
the title almost changed hands. It was a close fight, but Joanna displayed that she's got a heart of a champion. Went in there and just outstruck her, really put it on her, and showed that she has cardio for 15 rounds, like she said in a post-fight interview, in which I believe that.
Yeah, and dude, that was a hell of a fight, man. Gedalia just rushes her for 2 rounds and blows her wad. She was exhausted. I don't know what she thought she was gonna do. She was gonna take her down and choke her out quick, or take her down and ground and pound her. But like Joanna just fucking, it's one of those the classic weather the storm and then come out firing in rounds 3, 4, 5, dominated. Now, when I was watching it live, I thought Gedalia had done enough to take the 3rd round. I thought she did 1, 2, and 3. You know what I mean? And then I rewatched it 2 more times, and I agree with everybody. Joanna took 3, 4, and 5. It was pretty clear, especially once you see the numbers of strikes. Like Joanna beat the shit out of Claudia big time, and meanwhile Claudia landed only like, well, not only, but she landed like 7 takedowns or something like that. But that's not going to win you a fight anymore. Not a championship fight anyway. So that was a trippy fight, man. I mean, I was excited. That was exciting as hell.
Yeah, I even thought of just the minute she cracked her right off the bat. It kind of reminded me of Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva when Chael just went right at him, bull rushed him, and knocked him down a couple times. So it was kind of leaning towards that scenario. I was like, oh shit, Joanna's about to lose the title, but she showed why she's a champion. She's on a hell of a streak right now. She's on a great, she's finished, or she's beaten all top competition going forward. I mean, people are doubting her now, saying, oh, Joanna's going to lose at some point, but I think she's still pretty, she's got room for improvement. She's going to get better. She's tough as shit. Yeah, she's going to hold on to that belt real tight. So it's going to be not an easy win for anybody. I don't care what kind of streak they're coming on going in against Joanna.
I tell you what, if JJ gets better, if she keeps getting better, she's going to be the DJ of that division. Like, just send whoever you want. She'll find a way to fuck him up, and then she'll just beat him, and it's just going to be sad for everybody. Like, for them anyway. Mike Jobs is a big fan. Says JJ hasn't even started. Wait till someone really challenges her. Like, man, I would love to see a striker of her level that she could take on, because that would be a hell of a fight right there. So,
and if they decide to do a 125 division, I mean, that'd be nice, because I think Joanna can move up, and then there's fights with Calderwood, and there's some interesting fights. So if they decide to go that route, I mean, I think Joanna can possibly be a 2-division champ.
Very possible. And I think she talked about it a little bit, didn't she? I think she was talking about that she would love to fight for the 125 belt and hold 2 belts and all that sort of stuff. So that'd be crazy. And what was the other fight? Okay, let's talk real quick. Eddie Alvarez and RDA. Damn. I mean, who saw that shit coming, right? I mean, RDA, trying to pressure. Well, he was pressuring Alvarez. Alvarez just hurt him and then just beat the shit out of him to where we see a new champion. Now, Eddie Alvarez, like, he gave RDA a ridiculous amount, not ridiculous, but like the respect he's earned, right? He goes, hey, look, it could have been the other way. He could have knocked me out, So that's crazy. But if you look at the guys that Eddie Alvarez had to beat in order to get to RDA, you have to give that man a lot of credit for getting to where he is now. That was an incredible feat to go from Bellator to here. I think he has a legitimate claim at the best lightweight in the world. What do you think of that, of Alvarez?
Yeah. I remember, numerous years ago when he was still, competing in Bellator, they still had him as, top pound for pound guy. He was, pretty unknown to, the casual fan, or, because I've known about Eddie Alvarez for many years. So him coming into the UFC, slipping up against Donald, I'm sure those two possibly will meet again in the future at some point. Would love to see that, but just the tear he did, like, he came in and they threw him, like he said it himself in the interview, an interview previous to the bout. He said, I wanted all top guys. I told Dana I want the toughest guy. The top guy is going to get me to the belt, in which he took all those fights and won every last one of them. So it kind of makes the RDA Conor fight that never happened kind of look a little bit more interesting, because it's like, hey, what if Conor would have went in there and just starched RDA, and he would have been a two division champion simultaneously? So that kind of reverts me to that thought about that. But then again, all credit to Eddie Alvarez, especially in the post conference. He was really carrying himself like a champion, as he should, and he just went in there and made easy work of RDA, which nobody's seen that coming. But then again, RDA will probably be back. He said it himself that he just got caught. Much respect with both guys are in both ends in the press conference. So I think RDA is going to get a big fight. He'll be back in the mix soon enough as well.
Yeah, if it wasn't for 155 being a pretty good stacked division, we'd probably see a rematch for that. That's not going to happen this time around. He's got, Artie's going to have to win a big fight to get back in there. All right, let's talk about this card, man. So it's weird. It's not weird. We have Wednesday cards every once in a long while, but we have them. This one's in South Dakota, I mean, I think it's the first time to get there. So right away, the main event, of course, is Michael McDonald against John Lineker, which is actually a pretty legit fight. But let's kick off with the UFC Fight Pass early prelims. They are 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time, with Devin Brown Bear Clark against Alex the Spartan Nicholson. We've seen Nicholson before. He's 6-2. Excuse me, he's 6-2 in the UFC. He's a hands guy. He wants to knock dudes out. He's not at all. I mean, not that he's not at all about the ground game, but he'd rather knock you out with his hands. Meanwhile, Devin Clark, he's also a knockout guy. He does have, I think, some submission wins in his record. But I mean, the way I see it, we're gonna see a stand-up fight in this one. They might cancel each other out, try to take each other down, but I think the Spartan's going to come here and drop a right hand on his jaw and knock him out. What do you think of this fight?
Yeah, hopefully these guys continue the trend of what we talked about on a couple previous shows. Is first couple fights on the last few cards have just been flatline knockouts, TKOs right off the bat. So this fight here, Nicholson, I think he fought Serkinov his last fight. Fought a tough fight with Serkinov, so he's already been in there with him, and that guy's a monster, and he's rising up the rankings quickly. Devin Clark, I think, is a hometown guy. I think he's ranked in the top 5, or he's like the top guy in the Dakota regional. But he's a former champion, I think, at 205. So this fight, he's cutting the 185, making the debut in the UFC. I think his last fight was not that long ago. I think it was like 4 or 5 months ago he just fought. So, but making that jump to the UFC. So tough matchup, like you said. It's gonna be a stand-up fight. I think Brown Bear pulls it off. And I think I like these RFA guys. They come in always with a lot of momentum. They always got an unblemished record as well. But then again, they some lose, some win. It's that debut deal. But I think Devin Clark gets it done. I think he has a chance to put Nicholson out. And then Nicholson's far off in the rankings at that division, ranked number 138. So it's a good matchup for Clark, debut fight.
Definitely. I was like seeing the debut guys get someone that's close to their level, or at least, like you said, the ranking, because it actually means it might be a good fight and they have a chance to win. I don't like it when they put them against like veteran fighters who are clearly going to whoop the shit out of them. So it's nice to see that matchup. All right, and then the other fight on the Fight Pass prelims, we get Hani Yahya against Matthew Lopez. Matthew Lopez, another RFA guy, 29 years old, out of California, Reign MMA. He's a wrestler. He's pretty well rounded. He's got hands. He's got a submission game. Coming off a submission, it's technically a submission win, but it was elbows and punches. So he basically beat a guy until he tapped at RFA 37 in April of this year. Eli Finn getting his debut fight against Hani Yahya, who we've seen plenty of times in the UFC and WEC. The guy, we know his reputation. Coming out of Brazil, 31 years old, Constrictor team. Actually, Hani Yahya has one of the sickest T-shirts, and I can't remember exactly what the T-shirt says, but it's that Constrictor Team Constrictor. And I've been wanting to get my hand on one of these fucking shirts forever. And I could Amazon the damn thing. I go to Google. I tweeted Rogan to see if he can fucking tell me where to get one, because he's looking for one too. And I can't find one anywhere. So if anybody knows how to get a Team Constrictor fucking T-shirt, fucking tweet me. I want one. I don't give a fuck if it's Hani Yahya on it. I just want Team Constrictor, the sickest shit ever. I will wear that to jiu-jitsu every fucking day. But anyway, Yahya hasn't fought since July of last year against Masanori Kanehara. A split decision fight. If I remember correctly, it was people were thinking that he won or that he lost it, that the other guy won. But I don't know. Regardless, this should be a pretty legit fight. But again, we just talked about a guy making his debut, getting a pretty even leveled guy to him. Now we get a guy making his debut from RFA getting thrown in there against Hani fucking Yahya. What do you think about this fight?
Yeah, like you said, Hani Yahya, I mean, what is this, like his 20th UFC fight, 19th UFC fight? I mean, the guy's been in there with Chad Mendes. I mean, he beat Mark Hominick years upon years ago. I remember watching that fight many years back. This fight here, I mean, like you said, RFA guy against a guy who's fought 19 times. So I'm leaning Hani Yahya definitely in this fight. The Dakota number 2 ranked guy, I think he's got some hype behind him. He could go in there and, drop some bombs and put Yahya out, showcase, right, what he's all about. RFA guys tend to be pretty solid dudes. This Lopez guy, I think, is from your neck of the woods, Eddie. I think he's Tucson born, from Arizona. But Yahya, the experience factors to him. He's unbelievably, he's young. He's still 31 years old for as many fights as he's been in. So he's one of those guys where he's got plenty of fights logged, a lot of UFC bouts under his belt. So I'm going to favor Ronnie Yaya in this one. I think Lopez might likely make it interesting, but there's just so many ways for Yaya to win. And yeah, I think he gets it done probably by decision, Eddie.
Yeah, I gotta say, too much experience, just too much experience. I'd love to see this kid from RFA come in and start him and make a name for himself, because that would be a big name having a resume. Have Hani Yahya like that, just like you said, fucking so many fights in UFC and WEC and all that, and then to come in and beat him would be huge for Lopez. But I just don't see it happening. As much as I'm gonna cheer for the Tucson kid, still, I just too much experience, too much cage time, too many ways to win for Yahya, and unless Yahya makes just an awful mistake and gets caught or something, I don't see it happening. So, yeah, I'm picking Yahya on that one. All right, next fight up, we go to the FS1 prelims. The kickoff at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman against Cody the Fist Fister, which you can make as many dirty jokes as you want to about, because I have, and I ran out of them. Anyway, of course, Fister, we know he's a wrestler. He likes to take guys down, ground them out. He can fucking take shots. What he can't do is take guillotine chokes. That's what Sage Northcutt got him with in the second round at the same fight card that Rose beat the shit out of Van Zandt in December last year. So, of course, he's the one that he fought Sage Northcutt, was talking all stuff about how I'm going to beat Sage Northcutt. I got more experience. Sage doesn't know anything. And then Sage choked him out. So, Fister has a lot to prove. But it's not like he loses too often, but he is. I think he's like 1-2 in the UFC. So he sort of kind of needs this fight. I mean, I would say he needs this win big time. Holtzman, meanwhile, 32 years old, out of Knoxville, Tennessee, in the Shield Systems. Also trains in Arizona at the MMA Lab. Coming off a decision loss to Drew Dober at UFC 195, which is also the Lawler Condit fight, or card earlier this year. He's 1-1 in the UFC. He beat Anthony Cristodolo, whatever the hell, but he's also Drew Dober. So guys that can grind him out, he can lose to. And Fister's a grind out guy. As far as his fights go, I'd like to pick Fister, but I think Holtzman's going to get it done here. Who are you picking in this one?
Yeah, I think the real question is going to be, Cody Fister's ground game. Mm-hmm. I think Holtzman definitely is going to be better there if the fight tends to go that route. Former XFC champion Holtzman, 32-year-old guy. He's got some experience under his belt. He's currently ranked 122. Cody Fister, number 144. So these guys are pretty deep off in the rankings and probably swap positions upon who wins the bout. But Fister 1-2 in the UFC, I think he needs the win. He's coming off the Northcutt loss. I mean, a lot of people are like, they stood him up. They thought, Fister had a chance to win that one if they didn't do the premature stand-up bullshit that everybody argues. Yeah. But Fister's physique just kind of bothers me. It's like, I'd like to see the guy a little bit more toned, a little bit more in shape. It shows that he wants it, maybe affiliated with a different camp, some better training partners. But he's still young in the sport. I mean, he's 26 years old. So I think Fister definitely needs this win. So I think he's going to probably, push Holtzman, give him all he got. I see it being a decision probably for Holtzman. But Holtzman only suffered his first loss recently. So I think he really wants to, get Fister a win under his belt and move forward in the division because, he's a little bit ahead of Cody Fister as we see it right now, rankings-wise. So I'll favor Holtzman in a decision on this one as well.
No, I agree with you. And if it goes to the ground, I think Holtzman's going to have the advantages there. And I wish Fister would take his strength and conditioning a lot serious, right? This is the same thing people say about Roy Nelson. They say Roy Nelson would have fought for a title by now had he at least he doesn't have to get skinny or even look like Overeem, but he's got to at least take his shit more serious. It just seems like he doesn't even care. He just eats whatever he wants. So, I'm with you. Holtzman's got the ground. I think he's going to take the decision as well. All right, next fight up, we got the strawweight women. Courtney Cast Iron Casey against Christina Barbie Stancio. Courtney Casey, actually out of Phoenix, Arizona, trains over at Freak Animal Fitness. She's 4-3. Here's my issue with it. They signed her because she's a strawweight that's breathing. She's 0-2 in the UFC already. All right, before that, she was 3-0. Or I'm sorry, she was 4-1. She fought at PXC, XFC, all that. But she's lost to Joanne Calderwood by decision, which, to be honest with you, losing to JoJo at that time, maybe not now, but at that time was like you lost to JoJo that's afraid of her own shadow, right? And then she lost to Co Hehan by decision at UFC Fight Night 79. She needs a win badly. I mean, badly. But even if she loses, I don't think she gets cut. They don't have a lot of straw weights. I think they need more straw weights. They might hold her on, hold on to her, give her one more shot, and then send her over to Invicta because you 3 in a row in the UFC is pretty much like the pink slip. Meanwhile, Barbie, Christina Stancio, coming off a decision loss to Marina Moroz at UFC Fight Night 86, which was that Rafa dos Santos card. She is out of Romania and Absoluta Bucharest. She's a submission chick. She wants to get the fight to the ground. She wants to take your neck. She wants to take your arm. She's big in triangle chokes, big in arm bars. So this fight's kind of weird, but I like more. Usually, I like to pick the fighter that really badly needs a win, because it's like, look, if there's any time you're gonna want to just go all out and try to get that finish, it's this one, right? It's this one that you really need to win. But I'm gonna go with the other one. I'm gonna go with Barbie, the Christina Stancio. She's gonna take this to the ground, take an arm in her neck. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll have to side with you. I think Brandon K, if he's listening as well, I know he's pretty sold on Stancio in this fight as well. She's still very young, 22 years old. Like you mentioned, Casey, she's dropped 2 bouts in the UFC. She's kind of lingering around whether or not she remains in that division, or if they tend to create a 125 division, they could transfer her there, or Invicta as well. A couple options. They kind of have to keep these rosters as filled as possible, in my opinion. But Stancio, I think, coming off of a recent bout, though, so I think she's got, I think it was her last fight, April 10th, I think the card it was. I'm not sure who the headliner was, but it was her debut fight. So, I mean, she dropped the debut. I think she'll come in there and she'll look a little bit better this time out. They're really close in rankings. They have Stancio at 40. They have Casey at 31. So I think Stancio likes to get this win. She suffered the UFC debut loss, so I think she'll be out there looking to not suffer 2 losses in the UFC, because 2 straight losses in the UFC is never good. In which, like you said, you want to favor Casey, but then again, I want to go with Stancio in this one based on the youth, and she just seems like she'd be a better fighter when it goes to the ground, and more options to win, definitely.
Yeah, and I don't see Casey, being able to stop her from taking it to the ground at all. So it's gonna be, it's gonna be one of those fights where Stancio is gonna make a name for herself and hopefully win impressively, so she can get her career going. All right, next fight up, we got the middleweights. Eric, the Dreamcatcher Spicely, against smiling Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey, of course, coming off that embarrassing loss to Elias Theodoro. Now, the reason I say embarrassing, because losing to Elias Theodoro, who's a legit fighter, he's legit, he's good. It wouldn't be embarrassing except for the fact that Sam Alvey barely threw a punch. He literally just waited and waited, got the shit kicked out of him, and kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And little by little, that smile faded away, and he did not smile for shit, especially once he was declared the loser by decision at Fight Night, McDonald vs. Thompson. Before that, got TKO'd by Derek Brunson in the first round. But I mean, before that, 3 in a row where he finished the fight with hands, knockouts. You know what I mean? So to have that kind of momentum and then have it stop because you got 2 losses in a row, he needs this one. He needs this one bad. And what a perfect matchup for him to bring in a guy making his UFC debut, and Eric Spicely, the dream catcher out of Providence, Rhode Island, and Triforce MMA. He's undefeated 8-0, but he fought at Classic Entertainment and Sports. Like, no one's ever heard of that, really. So it's basically UFC saying, here, Sam Alvey, win this fight and stay. Like, this is literally your fight to lose. So I got to pick Sam Alvey in this. It's got to be a knockout. What do you think?
Yeah, obvious favoring Sam Alvey in this fight. I mean, I think Spicely, they have him as undefeated, but didn't he get choked out pretty badly? I think he lost a fight in the tough, I think, but I haven't really followed the tough, but I think he has lost a fight before, though. But it's one of those exhibition bouts, I think. They have Alvey still ranked number 29 in that, division of, pretty much a lot of killers when you get towards, the 20s and up. But it's a quick turnaround for him. Like you said, they're basically saying, here, Sam, last time you stunk it up. Here you go. We want to get you a win, get you back in the mix. So he needs a good win. He promised his fans, a better performance on Twitter almost minutes after the fight with Theodoro. So he didn't throw a single punch. He was gun shy. Terrible game plan. I don't know what was going on in that matchup, but I think I did pick. I picked Theodoro in the fight regardless, but thought Alvey would come out with a better performance than that. I think he does so in this one. Otherwise, expect to hear a lot of boos more than likely, because that's been somewhat of a trend from high profile fights to lower prelim fights. So I think Sam Alvey's got to get out there and get after it. Definitely.
No, I agree with you on that one. All right, moving on to the next fight here, the bantamweight women. Lucky Lauren Murphy against Caitlin Blonde Fighter Chukagan. Yeah, that's how you say it. All right, so we got the undefeated blonde fighter against Lucky, who's I think 9-2. Yeah, 9-2. She's 32 years old, out of Anchorage, Alaska. Also trained over at the MMA Lab, and Gracie Barr Arcadia, apparently, according to Sherdog. Coming off a TKO win over Kelly Fastholz at Fight Night 83 in February. She's looking to build some momentum here. Look, it's hard to build momentum in the bantamweight division if you're not Holly Holmes or even a Jessica Evil Eye or Raquel Pennington. I mean, it's hard to build momentum when you're not one of those top 5, top 8 bantamweights, Juliana Pena, Kat Zingano, right? So she's kind of got an uphill road, but she gets a newbie. Chukagan is making her UFC debut at a Team Renzo Gracie and All-Star Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's out of Jersey City, New Jersey, 7-0. Last fight, she won a knockout by with a knee, 45 seconds, I think, into the first round, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And so she's got a highlight in her resume. Here's the thing about Lauren Murphy is she tends to make mistakes that get her caught, and it kind of goes downhill for her from there. But I have to go with experience. I have to go with cage time. As much as I want to pick the new girl, I'm going with Murphy by decision to find a way to stop those flying knee attacks or any of those kind of crazy power attacks from a youngster or at least an inexperienced fighter. I'm picking Lauren Murphy. Who are you picking?
Yeah, this one's it's a pick'ems fight. When I was looking through it, I mean, I've seen Chukagian's fights. I know she's ranked #1 up in the Jersey regionals. She's beating everybody up there. I don't know if they're, it's great competition up that way. She beat everybody she's supposed to be. She's here in the UFC now. I know she has a great fan base. I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing her compete. She trains, I think, up there with Frankie Edgar and them guys up there in Jersey. But Lauren Murphy, she's got the experience, like you said, Eddie. You're one to side with experience. I think I'll do the same in this fight. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. I think both these ladies are going to get in there and really get after it. It's positioned on the card where, they can really, light it up and set off this card in Sioux Falls, in which it's the debut show for the UFC in Sioux Falls. But she's a former champion, Chukagian, so I think she probably, makes it scrappy at that point. So I said it's going to be a shootout. I think they'll get after it. It'll be somewhat of a war. I think Lauren Murphy takes it, though, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's like possibly a finish, on either side. That's another thing I'd like to throw in there. Yeah,
and the thing, that's the interesting thing about the women's fights, both strawweight and bantamweight. You never a lot of those fights are pick and fight. You know what I mean? I mean, unless back then, unless you were facing Ronda Rousey, which meant you're almost a certain death, unless your name is Holly Holm. A lot of these fights are kind of pick-em-ish. So especially the lower ranked fighters in those divisions. So you definitely got a point on that one. All right, so moving on here to the main card. By the way, all these that we've sent, I think only the first there's going to be a Fight Pass. Those first two fights are on Fight Pass. The rest of them are on FS1, unless it's like a race or a baseball game or some shit on FS1. Then they'll go to FS2.
Oh, yeah.
Then I feel sorry for all you guys that don't have it. I don't have it either. I'm not paying for that shit. So I'll be like everybody else on Twitter, just waiting to see what happens. All right. First fight on the main card, number 12 ranked flyweight Luis, the Last Samurai Smoka against Ben 10 Nguyen. Nguyen's 10-5-5 in his career. Smoka 10-1. Of course, Nguyen, 27 years old, out of South Dakota. He's fighting at home at Integrated MMA. He's 2-0 in the UFC, coming off a rear naked choke win, first round win over Ryan Benoit. He won his debut against Alptenik Ozilik. Jesus, with the names, come on. By knockout in the first round in May. So he fought in November and May last year, won both those, finished both those fights. He's an exciting guy, and he likes knocking dudes out. You know what I mean? It's what he does. And I know you were talking about it before we started talking about the card. Because we were talking about fights, the more exciting fights on there, and you were talking about this one possibly being, one of the barn burners, one of the more exciting fights. Luis Smoka out of Hawaii and Hawaii Lead MMA, 24 years old. He's 4-1 in the UFC. Wins over Neil Seery, Richie Valcook, Patrick Holland, Patty Holland, where they main evented that UFC Fight Night 76. Also a win over Ozilik. His only loss is a split decision to Chris Carriasso. So both of these guys have the ability to win. Both of these guys have the ability to finish. But I have to say I'm leaning with Nguyen here. Fighting at home is going to mean a lot more to him to win and just to be in the cage in his hometown or his home state. And as long as he can handle the jitters, right? Because when you're fighting at home in front of your people, you're kind of, you're kind of like hyped out and everything. As long as he can handle that, he's fine. But he's got to be careful about getting taken to the ground because Smolka will finish him on the ground for sure. But I'm leaning towards Nguyen by decision. Who are you taking?
Yeah, like you mentioned, we talked about before the show. I mentioned this fight is definitely my pick for fight of the night. It will indeed be the most exciting fight of the night. There's pretty much, there's high stakes along with this bout. Like I said, in the 125 division, Smolka in impressive fashion, he's in the top 10 for sure. I think he's ranked number 13 right now. I go based on world rankings, but Ben to win, like you mentioned, he's at home. Fighting Sioux Falls. He's on a 9-fight winning streak, so the guy hasn't been beaten in a long time. So he's looking to really keep that streak going, and he could probably possibly, be a contender at this weight class. But just Demetrius sets that bar so high that this fight right here is where it kind of gauges who's the next contender rising up. And 5-1 in the UFC. Louis Smolka, I think his only loss is to Carriazo. Close fight. It was a decision, but Smolka's dangerous anywhere the fight goes. I think Nguyen, likewise, Tiger Muay Thai guy. It's his third UFC fight. Both these guys haven't fought in a while, so I think both of them will be super fresh. I think they'll get in there, and it's going to be exciting bout for the hardcores. You ask anybody that is a hardcore MMA fan or a casual fan, the hardcore fans are going to tell you the Smolka Nguyen fight is the fight to watch. So we're letting you know here that definitely this is going to determine a contender in 125. Absolutely.
Especially with the fact that he just beat everybody. So these two guys have a rare chance, honestly, in professional sports to make a name for themselves in the in a card that's not being talked about too much, to possibly get a title shot pretty damn soon against a DJ or whoever's champ at that time, but it would probably be DJ. Although he's not fighting Heist anymore, so that's going to throw a wrench into the works here. All right, next fight up, Kyle Noke. Is it Noki or Noke?
It's Kyle Noke.
All right, Kyle Noke against Kita Nakamura. It's an interesting fight here. Starting off with Nakamura, 32 years old, out of Tokyo, Japan, and Kataro Dojo, welterweight, of course. Last fight, he's 1-1 in the UFC, lost to Tom Breeze by decision. He actually beat Jian Liang Li, who won by knockout this last weekend at Tough 23 finale. So he's got a pretty now it's a good win because we just watched Li knock out actually Zafir is actually a school teacher. So I'm not diminishing the teacher role, but you're a teacher and then you train part-time. Still, regardless, he's legit, right? And so now it's a pretty good win for the Japanese fighter. Meanwhile, Kyle Noke trains actually out of your town there, out of Jackson Wink MMA. 22-8, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 22-8-1 in his career, and he's been in the UFC for a minute. So he's got wins over Chris Camozzi, Charlie Brenneman, Pete Sabata. Lost to guys Ed Herman, Andrew Craig, Patrick Cote, which is a legit loss. That's not a bad loss because Patrick Cote is a killer. And Alex Morano was his last fight at 195. It's a split decision loss. Look, I'm picking Noki here, but it's because he's well-rounded. He can take the fight anywhere. It's just if he stays focused, because every time I see him lose, it's because he makes a few mistakes here and there, and they kind of add up on him. And I just don't see how look. To me, this is his fight to lose. So I'm picking him. Who you got?
Yeah, I had a tough decision picking this fight here. I mean, Kyle Noke, he's a local guy, trains out of Jackson Wink, trains with guys like Phil Hawes, trains with guys like Carlos Condit, all the killers down at Jackson. So I think Noke's he's coming off a disappointing loss. He lost against Alex Morono beginning of the year on the Carlos Condit card. It's 14th UFC fight. He's favored in this fight. I think Noke's definitely, capable of winning if the fight goes to the ground on the feet. I think Nakamura more than likely will want to take this fight to the ground. He's 32 years old. He's a little up there. But in the 170 division, these guys are kind of matched up accordingly. To throw numbers out there, Nakamura, number 87. Kyle Noke sits at number 50 in the world. I think Nakamura was a deep competitor, a Shudo guy. He's his second UFC fight that's happening now. I think Noke's got the experience, but he loses weird fights, Eddie. I don't know what it is. I definitely want to pick him in this fight. He just loses just odd stuff. I mean, like you said, the Cote fight. I mean, Cote was a killer. Cote was knocking heads off and competing very well at that period of time. So we're in a different era now, as we all know. So this time around, Kyle Noak, I think, has got the great training put in. All the work's been put in. He's got training partner Landon Benata, who he's been working hard with as well, leading up to this fight and preparing both each other, you know, in preparations for this card together. So I think Kyle Noak, possibly by submission, but a decision. I think I'm leaning to Kyle Noak, but not by much.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. And again, it's just, to me, it's just he makes a group of mistakes. They're not huge mistakes most of the time, but they add up on him. So just like you said, he loses weird fights. The fights that he should win, like that he's supposed to win, he loses, and the ones that he's not supposed to win, he wins. He's one of those guys, right? We've seen it in all kinds of sports. The games that, you know, in basketball, the games that some certain teams are supposed to win, they lose, and then the other way around, the games are supposed to lose, they win. It's the weirdest shit ever. All right, moving on to a weird fight, and the reason I say weird is because I'll give you a stat as soon as we get to it. We got number 15 ranked heavyweight Alexei Oleinik against Daniel. Okay, fuck the last names. We got a Russian against a Polish guy. All right, they're big dudes. They got big hands. They like to knock. They both like to actually submit people. Weirdly enough, right? Two guys, giant dudes, strong as shit, and they rather sub you than knock you out. Now, here's why I say it's a weird fight. The Russian cat at a K-Dojo Warrior Tribe and Uplat team. He's 39 years old. His record is 50-9 at 39 years old. Now, before everyone freaks out, it's like, oh, it's doctored, it's bullshit. No, he actually has fought a ridiculous amount of tournaments to where he wins multiple fights a night. So, if you win multiple fights a night for years, okay, that shit's gonna add up to 50 fights or to over 50 fights. So, he's 50-9. The number that I love out of the whole thing, 40 submissions on his record. This dude knows how to make you tap. It's amazing. Like, I'm surprised I haven't paid attention to him before. But he's 2-0 in the UFC. Beat Anthony Hamilton by neck crank. He beat Jared Rosholt by knockout in November 2014. So he hasn't fought in a minute. But I mean, look, submission guys have a pretty lengthy, you know, fight career if they don't get knocked out too much. That is. And this guy's only lost 9 fights in over 59 bouts. It's a crazy number. It makes me like, seriously, that's why I saw the number of fights, and I'm like, Jesus, this guy's never done anything else but fight. Meanwhile, Daniel Omelangzuk, I'm assuming, is a 33-year-old out of Anka Stepazi out of Warsaw, Poland. He's 18-5. He's actually got quite a few of UFC fights. He's 3-2 in the UFC. Lost to 2 guys that the other guy beat, Rosholt and Hamilton. Has wins over Nandor Gamino, Jarjus Danho, and Chris De La Rocha, who I believe is the fighter that passed away, right?
I think so. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, okay. Recipes, De La Rocha. I read the name and I immediately got really bummed out. So I'm assuming that's what it was. So you know, both guys like to submit. You know, most what was it? De La Rocha got knocked out by Daniel, but these guys are the submission guys. It's going to be a weird fight, you know, because everyone thinks, oh, you know, heavyweights are going to knock each other out. This is not that kind of fight. I mean, the submission game could cancel each other out. I don't see it happening. I see the Russian dude for sure trying to get it to the ground and win by submission. Could possibly get that cancellation and make it a hands game. I got to take the Russian, man. 50-9. I just want to see how many more fights he can get. He can win. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, he's older. I mean, he's a veteran guy, 39 years old. He's got that odd, unbelievable record, 50-9, like you said, 40 submissions. I mean, name another guy that's got a record like that, whether he's heavyweight or any weight class, any lower. I think he's favored in this fight. He's pretty much a heavy favorite. He's ranked number 23 in the world in the heavyweight division. He's a deadly guy. He's just inconsistent. We just don't hear about him enough. He hasn't fought, you know, many times in the UFC. It's only going to be his second fight, I think. Remember, he choked Krokop out, you know, a couple of years back. You know, that's not an easy task. But like you said, he's got 40 subs under his belt. You know, that's impressive right there. On the other side, the Emelianchuk, it's his first American fight, 6th UFC fight. He's always fought overseas in different events. I think he fought on the Roy Nelson card that was in Saitama, I think. let's see here, 3-2 UFC. Yeah, it's he's Olenek is favored -220 favorite currently right now. I'm leaning towards he gets the job done. Like you said, the submissions may cancel each other out, and I see Olenek getting a knockout TKO win, possibly second round. I think I have him picked 4. So this is a odd fight. It's really high up on the card. But with a guy with 50-9 record and people who know about this guy and what he does, yeah, I expect to see a very exciting bout here, top portion of the card.
Definitely. All right, moving on. We got the middleweights. Tim Boesch is the middleweight, which is always weird for me to say, but still. Tim Boesch against Josh Salmon. It's well, one guy really needs to win, and the other guy wants to get back on the horse. So start off with Josh Salmon here. 28 years old. You guys saw him in Tough. He was that asshole that was on top of the dude going, "What's this?" And he punched him with 2 hands, fucking from behind on top of him. That was the dumbest shit, honestly, I've ever seen. And I honestly have rooted against the guy since then. But you can't hate on him. He actually won a couple fights that were legit. Lost his last one, though, against Tamden McCrory, the Barn Cat, by submission, a triangle choke in the 3rd round at UFC on Fox 17. Dos Anjos versus Cerrone. Has a win over Kyle Magalhaes. Has a knockout win over Eddie Gordon, which was that the fight after the Tough season. So it's look, Salmon's not a bad fighter. He just kind of got caught in that triangle this last time around. Meanwhile, Tim Boesch has been around for a while, but the man needs a win like no other. I mean, this is make or break for him right here. 3 losses in a row for Tim Boesch, dating back to January of this year. He lost that fight against Ed Herman by knockout due to a knee. Dan Henderson knocked him out in June of last year. Talos Leitzis submitted him at UFC 183, Silva versus Diaz. This guy needs a win badly. He's got wins over Brad Tavares, CB Dalloway, but he's in Hector Lombard. But he's lost against Costas Philippou, Mark Munoz, Luke Rockhold, which, while legit losses, like they're not, they weren't bums that he lost to. He took on really solid guys and lost. He still has 3 in a row. I'm surprised he's still on the roster because 185 is not a light division whatsoever. So normally, like I said, I take a lot of things into consideration. The factor to me would be he needs to win badly. He's going to come out and just go balls out and try to win this fight. And I hate to side with this guy, but I'm taking Salmon in this one. Younger, has more weapons. Tim Boesch he's like a wrestler, ground and pound kind of guy to me. But I'm going to I hate picking Salmon, but I'm picking Salmon in this one. Probably hoping that I'm wrong and Boesch wins, but I'm picking Salmon. Who are you taking?
A tough pick here. I think it's one of those fights where you pick Tim Boesch to win and he gets knocked out in the 1st round. How many of those have we picked in the past, Eddie? Yeah. So, like you said, I'll credit Boesch to competition. He hasn't fought any bums. He's fought tough-ass dudes in that division, full of killers. So this fight here is kind of, Josh Salmon wants to make a name for himself and get a win over Tim Boesch, which won't be easy. I think he gets the job done. Salmon's ranked above him quite a bit right now. I think he's ranked number 27, and Boesch is kind of way down there, closer to the 50 range. But Boesch lost 3 straight against, Hendo. The Herman loss was hurt. The Herman loss really hurt him. I thought Boesch definitely was going to take that fight. I see him possibly on the chopping block. I mean, as long as he's been in the UFC, it's his 19th UFC bout. But if he loses, knockout here, gets choked out in the 1st round, I'd look to see Tim Boesch, maybe pursues other, promotions possibly, but Boesch has had a run in the UFC. So Josh Salmon, I think, gets the job done and moves up in the rankings. So I think, it's his time it's a 9th UFC fight. So he better start, getting some impressive wins under his belt. And Tim Boesch is a guy to, make a name for yourself for, I guess, this far into his career.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next fight up. We're up to the co-main event. It was supposed to be Tony Ferguson against Michael Chiesa. Instead, it is Tony Kukui Ferguson, number 3 ranked lightweight, against one of your boys, Landon Groovy Venata. Starting out here with Venata here, out of Albuquerque, but originally from Toms River, New Jersey, same time as Frankie Edgar. Trains over at Jackson Wink MMA. He's 8-0. He's undefeated. He's got TKO wins, submission wins. This kid is well-rounded. He's actually had some bloody wars, so he's not afraid of getting the scrap at all. And that this one might turn into a scrap of sorts if Tony Ferguson, because Tony Ferguson has a funky style. We seen him do some weird shit, and he has the ability to get the brawls. If Venata can make it a brawl, I would actually side towards the rookie here, but kind of hard against Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is 32 years old, out of Oxnard, California. Team Death Clutch. He's a lightweight, 20-3. He is on an 7-fight win streak. Wins over Danny Castillo, Abel Trujillo, Gleason Tebow, Josh Thompson, and Edson Barbosa lately in December with that Bravo choke win. Was supposed to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov, pulled out due to injury. Then was supposed to fight Michael Chiesa. Chiesa pulled out due to injury. Your boy Venata gets in there. It's going to be kind of a tricky fight for Venata to win, I think, because of how weird and just weird Ferguson fights. So I'm going to have to go with Ferguson on this one, probably by submission of some sort. But I don't rule out that Venata can make this a bloody brawl and give himself a chance to win. But who are you picking?
Yeah, I think when I first heard this fight get announced, I mean, I'm a big Tony Ferguson fan. I ain't gonna lie. I followed the guy's entire career. I think he's much deserving of a title shot. I thought he already would have, be put in a high-profile bout. They just keep falling out. The Khabib fight fell out. Tony's just such a talented guy. He's a killer. Expect to see the Blanca rolls from Street Fighter in this one. I think he's going to throw a diverse attack at Landon. I think Landon's a super athletic guy. He's hungry, man. I mean, Landon wants to make a statement here. It's a short notice fight, so on both sides, anything can happen. I mean, it's been a trend of just expect the unexpected when it's a last minute short notice fight. A lot of people would probably know about Landon Venata a little bit earlier. He was in the RFA circuit. He was going to fight Raoni Barcelos for the title. He would have possibly been a champion and already was, getting in touch with pursuing the UFC career and getting calls. So I know a lot of guys that were top guys in the division turned down this fight. I know for a fact that's true. Landon was quickly to take the fight, no hesitation. He's in the mix. You'll know who Landon Venata is after Wednesday or Wednesday night. He's going to make it an interesting fight. With that said, Ferguson's on a run. He's a straight killer. This fight could really, it's something like I said earlier. Holloway's on a run. Frankie was on a run. Ferguson's been on a run. Does he get that loss? And then does Landon give him that loss on a opening UFC debut? Very, very tough task. And it's a 3-round fight. So it's going to be interesting to see how Landon comes out, what Ferguson's able to do right off the bat, because he's coming forward. But then again, I think Landon's got the athleticism to match Ferguson. I think their training is very similar. But then again, Landon's got plenty of momentum. He's confident. He's hungry. He keeps tweeting out that he's going to shock the world. So do not doubt the guy. He's a game guy, and win or lose, he's going to be here to stay. Whether it's the 155 division or 145, I'm not sure which weight class he's kind of this bout will determine that. But then again, I got to go with the pick of Tony Ferguson, and I think it's going to be a war since it's a 3-round fight. And I was really hoping this fight would have stayed at the main event slot. Very rarely does a guy making his UFC debut make a debut on the main event slot. So I was really hoping Landon would have got that opportunity. But then again, this fight or this specific card is for hardcore. So if you're watching that night and you know who Landon Venata is, it's gonna go down. So. He's tweeting out he's going to shock the world. So, but Ferguson is up there in the 155 division. He cannot lose this fight. He knows the title's close. He could smell it, and I think he deserves it with the win here over Landon as well.
Yeah, Venata has a chance to play spoiler right there. I mean, just like you said, weirdly enough, the guy that needs to win more is Ferguson, right? Because weirdly, like I said, and it's one of those rare cases where the guy on the 7-fight win streak needs to win way more than even the guy. If a guy was going in this with 3 losses in the UFC, or a brand new guy, Venata making his UFC debut. Now, I think if Venata can make this a brawl, he gives himself a chance. If he could just not have the UFC jitters, because he's jumping on a co-main, right? Jumping in anything on a main card on your debut is hard. Jumping on a co-main or a main is nails, right? But I'm encouraged by the fact that he's tweeting out that he's confident and all that. And you got to appreciate that from a guy, especially coming in and late notice when nobody else wanted that fight. And he goes, yeah, I'll fight him. Why not? So it's a guy that takes risks. And, as you know in life, if you don't take risks, you're not winning. Like Bruce Arians, coach of the Cardinals says, no risk it, no biscuit. So, go for it. I'm rooting for Venata. I'm not going to lie. I'm rooting for this kid to do well and to, maybe shock the world like he says. All right. Moving on here to the main event, we have the bantamweights. Number 5, Michael Mayday McDonald against John Hands of Stone Lineker. We know these guys. Lineker is, he knocks dudes out. It's pretty easy to tell. He Hands of Stone, right? Hands of Stone is the name. The problem he's had before is making weight. So, we hope he gets there. But he's on a 4-fight win streak. Obviously, at that weight, it's not 4-fight win streaks don't really mean a whole lot, I don't think. But Optenik Ozilic, Ian McCall, Francisco Rivera, and Rob Font back in May of this year by decision. Before that, he lost to Ali Bagatinov at Barral Faber Part 2. So that was back in 2014. So Lineker's got plenty of experience out of Brazil. Dude knocks people out. Michael McDonald out of Modesto, California, and Last Stand Fight Team, 17-3. Last has a submission win over Masanori Kanehara. So he has the ability to stand and throw hands. He has the ability to knock you out. I have a hard time believing McDonald's going to be able to knock Lineker out, but I do think he can outlast Lineker if he can just handle, not get hit or take some of that punishment, weather the storm. Lineker does get tired. We've seen him to get a little tired in there enough to where McDonald can take him down and submit him. So I don't know who the favorite is in this one. I mean, maybe but I'm picking Michael McDonald here by submission. Who you got?
Yeah, this fight, moving it to a 5-rounder. It's a 5-round main event, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that is the fact that it's a 5-round main event. You made a good point. I think Mayday could be the guy to outlast him. Lineker, as we all know, fights. I mean, when you're fighting him, it's kind of like you're fighting a guy who has a knife in his hand, just by how deadly how his punching power is. The fight with Rob Font was just a straight up war. That went to a decision. I think Lineker still was pretty strong and late in that 3rd round. Mayday, a lot of people know who he is. You're a hardcore fan. You follow the sport. You know who McDonald is. To the casual fan, Mayday is just not as active. This fight should be a little bit bigger, more of a name guy, because I definitely know who Michael McDonald is. You and many of our listeners probably know as well. So definitely deserving of the main event slot. Lineker, number 12, Mayday, number 8. So Mayday's ahead of him. Lineker, if he wants to make a run, which I think he will, I think Lineker is going to be a force going forward. Tough task at hand with Michael Mayday McDonald. But his only loss is Ali Bagatinov, and that was ages ago. I don't know if McDonald's the guy to hand him the loss, really handily. It's going to be by decision. I definitely agree if it goes that route. Mayday is still 25 years old. Lineker's still a young guy, 26 years old. They're meeting up in their prime. I think if it goes to the ground, if McDonald's able to get Lineker to the ground, I think he could do some damage. That's going to be probably in the later rounds. Say it does go to 4 or 5, but I'm favoring Lineker in this bout. I think he's going to look impressive. Mayday is just, he's trying to be more active. I mean, it's going to be a second fight. He's just super inconsistent. But then again, if he gets the job done, I mean, he's ranked number 8. He's in the mix. So, but Lineker, I think 27-7 against 17-3. McDonald, yeah, they're really fighting for who's moving into that top 10.
No, absolutely, yeah, and getting I mean, they're one big fight away from possibly challenging for a title. Although against Dominic Cruz, it's going to be a very, very long fight. All right, so again, UFC Fight Pass prelims, early prelims, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. FS1 prelims, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and the main card also on FS1, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. This is Wednesday, so this Wednesday, so 2 nights from now, right? Yeah, so in a couple days, we get another card, UFC card. And then after that, we don't get one until the 23rd or something like that. Not this weekend, but the weekend after, I think. So usually, like, these cards, like, after a big weekend like this one, the UFC gives their people a nice little break. Not happening this time. All right. So let's get into some other news here. We have one question on here, and then a couple of things we get or a couple questions. And then one thing we want to talk about, of course, that we haven't brought up yet, the elephant in the room with the UFC thing. But first question here from Mike says, are you going to talk about Cowboy versus professionally offended people? Now, have you ever heard Cowboy made the mistake of going on a UFC like Q&A with CM Punk and somebody else, and basically said that Daniel Cormier fought like a fag against Anderson Silva, and then he got shit on real bad on social media to the point where the UFC said they're going to put in some kind of training or something, and then he actually went on Twitter and apologized. Look, and the question, kind of answers itself a little bit by saying Cowboy versus professionally offended. We're in a time where anything you say can offend somebody. Anything you say, doesn't matter what it is. Somebody could, feel offended and everything. So it's, you could almost think like, oh, we're in a society of, wussies now where they can't handle something, even though he wasn't talking about homosexuals whatsoever. It's a word used as a slur against homosexuals, so people take it crazy. But has there been anything done in Albuquerque, any kind of reaction to that, or what have you heard?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard too much about it. I just seen about Donald tweeting out saying he's apologizing for speaking in that manner. But it's just something like you said, Eddie, in this times now where anything you say, it's going to hurt somebody's feelings, especially when it's on that type of topic. So I think Donald just kind of, casually, conversating with CM. There's cameras everywhere. There's always cameras around Donald Cerrone. So they kind of just picked that out and decided to say, oh, this is what he said, and make a big damn deal about it. But hey, it could be, it involves an MMA fighter as big as Donald Cerrone. So I guess it's worthy news to whoever decided to make a big deal. And then, I'm sure the guy, is sincere in his apology. I mean, he didn't really mean it in that way. I mean, I'm sure a lot of things slip from many fighters, but when it's something like that involved in the UFC, I mean, there's been a couple times where they've really, been pretty pissed off about it. So.
Yeah. And look, I say a lot of stuff on here. All right. I've gotten into, stand-up comedy of sort sometimes. Once in a while I'll do it. And I've pissed some people off with some of the shit I say, because I just, look, in comedy, you just go off, right? But this isn't comedy. Cerrone said it and as soon as I heard him say it, I was like, God, really, dude? Like, do you not know where you are? There's cameras on you, and there's cameras everywhere. We're in social media land now, where everyone's got a camera. Everything you could do that you're doing could be videotaped. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful what you say, or be comfortable handling the consequences. So Cerrone, did the right thing. He apologized. He cleared up what he was saying, basically. And hopefully we can just move on from here. But people were saying, like, I saw things on Twitter that were stupid. They were like, oh, because he has a fight coming up, I forgot against who, but he has a fight scheduled, and it's like, oh, take him off the car, suspend him for a year, I'll ban him from fighting. And I'm like, for saying that? Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Like freaking thin-skinned ass people, they get all pissed off about this stuff and can't handle it. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's a trip.
And then it's just unnecessary news, because, I mean, it's kind of like, you want people paying attention to Donald Cerrone as a fighter, but then he gets people involved in it where they're not fight fans, so it's kind of like where, you see the tweet, you see Donald say, he apologizing for that. So it's something where it just gets out of hand, where there's people that are just, not involved in the sport. They never watch UFC. They just hear about it and make their case on why they're offended. And it just creates a bunch of, just BS, in my opinion. But if they're offended, Donald apologized, and that's it. And Donald's definitely going to own up to any mistakes that he makes for the UFC in the process. He's a big name for them.
Definitely. It's the same people that are vegans that were like, see, Nate Diaz beat McGregor. You can be a vegan and still win fights. Like, shut up. You don't even know who Nate Diaz is. Chill the fuck out. All right. Another question here. Do you guys think that TJ Dillashaw looked bad at UFC 200? He didn't look good. I don't think. I didn't like how he looked slow, didn't he? Did he look slow to you?
Yeah, there's something about TJ. I mean, I don't understand why he feels the need to kind of mimic the Dominic Cruz style, the footwork. I think he kind of took that and ran with it, him and Bang Ludwig, in the process of them preparing for Dominic. I think he could fight totally a different way, but I mean, he'd really have to kind of retool his entire game. He's such used to the movement that he's doing now. But I don't know if it's effective for him and he's winning and he beat Asunciao, via decision. I mean, we've seen him go in there and lay waste to a unbeaten Renan Barão and just, put it on and become the champion. So I don't understand, what people are saying, that he looked bad. I mean, he may have just not looked, the impressive. I mean, it's a 3-round fight too. It was a 3-rounder. It was an important fight for him. Mm-hmm. Like we mentioned in the pre-fight show for the 200, I mentioned if Dillashaw were to lose, who's next for him other than Uriah Faber? But it worked out in the best case scenario for him. He fought well. He fought smart. He got the much needed win over the only loss in his career besides Dominic Cruz. So he's got that canceled off his record now. So he's eyeing Dominic, and he said that that's definitely what he wants. So I don't blame the guy. I think he fought smart. I think he looked great.
Oh, and Jesse shows up to the very end, dude. You missed the entire fucking breakdown. And then check these comments that this asshole left on here. He goes, fuck UFC 200. I was drunk and it was still lame, especially the Kane fight. Look, man, how about you just go back and replay the Verdum knockout? Let's just keep doing that all day. You'll feel better. It's all good. Jesse, all right. Well,
I thought I'd just pop my head in here after my comment.
I figured. Real quick, man, so we're about to actually get into this because I was going to ask Dave here, but we'll start off with you. We've been talking about the UFC sale forever, right? for over a year. It really weirds me out that everyone's so shocked and they're like, "Oh my God, what's gonna happen now?" What's your take on the sale?
Honestly, like nothing's gonna change for a while, so I don't know why everybody's freaking out right now. Honestly, everybody should be looking at the good that's gonna come out of this, like more money being pushed into the UFC, more markets being, acquired. It's all good. Plus, they're keeping Dana White. Plus, he's getting a really, really nice pay out of it.
Oh, yeah, he is.
If you do the math, 9% out of $4 billion is like $360 million. So,
Jesus Christ.
just 5 away from $1 million a day, right?
Why did I go to college, man? Why the fuck did I go to college? That's bullshit. You know what? Fuck college. All right, go do some shit. Make $300 million in like 20 years of work, and then just you're set for life. How your family's set for life.
Be a boxing promoter, right?
Exactly. Go deal with some like fucking mafia dudes in Boston too.
So my question though to you guys is this: like, so do we all get to throw a parade for what's his name from Flow Combat now? Like, because he was
Jeremy
right
Potter?
And he was like, huh?
Jeremy
Yeah,
Potter. Here's the thing about
like,
Potter. The reason he's saying that, dude, and anyone that doesn't know, is because Jeremy Potter put this out. Like, okay, first of all, let me go backwards here. This news was broken a long time ago, right? We've been talking about it forever. It was denied left and right, and all that shit, whatever. But Potter got sources, like, and put out the information and everything. And people in the UFC actually talked about. I think Dana White said it, that they were thinking about using legal recourse against Jeremy Potter and Flow Grappling, Flow Combat, whatever website it is. And people were like actually kind of shitting on Potter online on Twitter, saying, "Oh, you're gonna get sued," and that's the shit. He's kind of vindicated now, so that's good. But the other thing that it tells me, and it's something we've known forever about Dana White, when Dana White says no, it means yes. So one, the UFC sale is legit, official. Two, we will see GSP back in the UFC, for sure. Okay? As he went out and said no about it, it's going to happen, for sure. All right, at this point, you can fucking write it down, book him against somebody, it don't even matter. So, Dave, when you heard the news of the sale, when it became official, what'd you think?
Yeah, not at all surprised, Eddie. You guys have been talking about it for quite some time. Many people have, broke the news. Like you said, Jeremy Potter at Flow Combat came out and broke the news to everybody. I've talked about it a couple times on the ESPN show. They just kind of waited till the conclusion, till everything kind of, fell over. And then they said Monday, here we go. We signed the paper Saturday night. It's official. So an interesting thing I think I read through earlier today was, along the lines of the Fertittas, because we all know that I think Lorenzo is a new chairman of like the Red Rock Casino deal going on now, so he has a new gig there. But I know that they're supposed to make this change to football, because I think they're actively going to pursue the Oakland Raider type deal where they're going to transition them to Las Vegas. So yeah. I know that the Fertittas and them have the land, the transition of power and everything now with the UFC sale. So that's a possibility. But then again, you think about it, though, they got the new arena, they got the new UFC headquarters, so the new owners are kind of, the switch of power is there. They put everything in place. They showcased UFC 200. They wanted that to be their biggest show, minus one of the biggest fighters in MMA history. So I don't know if you guys want to finish on that topic. But then again, though, the sale, definitely not surprising. But if Dana's around and just the sale amount and what the amount it was sold for proves that the UFC is a big, it's big nowadays. So with Dana as the figurehead, they got to keep him there, because Dana's going to keep this show rolling and keep it on a big stage, in which it is now. I mean, it's amazing how far they've come, and 4.2 billion reasons to be happy, them guys, Fertittas and Dana.
Look, greatest return on investment probably ever. $2 million turning into $4.2 billion. Why not, right? I mean, I would have told him to sell it too. Now, it's funny you talk about the Raiders. Dana White has always talked about how the Fertittas would own an NFL team one day. This might be it. This might be a time. So, all right, and then let's finish the show talking about John Jones, man. So John Jones, obviously everyone knows, gets popped for. Okay, let me kind of backtrack. Chael Sonnen was on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast this morning, and accidentally let out that John Jones tested positive for estrogen blockers, which of course we know is what you use to cycle off steroids. So Jesse, you hear that? Possibly he was taken. What do you think out of that? Like, you connect the dots. What do you think?
I mean, I guess. I mean, it's kind of tough because I mean, there's very few reasons to be taking those things, you know.
Right.
And of course, Chael would be the indicated guy to kind of explain that.
Yep.
I still haven't heard the whole thing. I got to download it and listen to it, but you know, I'm pretty sure that.
Me too.
I don't think it was a slip of the tongue. You know, Chael Sonnen's a pretty smart and savvy dude, and I think he knows, you know, what he can say and what he can't say without getting in trouble. So, you know, I'm pretty sure this is kind of more of a marketing play by Chael, but man, I don't know. It's difficult to really understand why Jones would do something like this.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're probably the screen perfect on you. Dave, now you know, obviously you're in Albuquerque. How does that sound to you? You hear estrogen blockers possibly as a reason. Are the teammates down in Jackson's, you know, are they turning on them? Do you know how they feel at all?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm hoping to catch up with Phil Haas, catch up with Brandon, talk with them about it a bit. I know it's probably not the best topic, but then again, it is the guys you want to talk to about this. They're directly, you know, they're close to Jones. It's just so strange because what do you guys remember John doing, being, you know, out of fighting for quite the time? I mean, what was synonymous with John Jones in that time where he wasn't fighting? He was powerlifting.
Yeah.
He looked bigger. He looked weight. You know, he looked huge. He looked. You know, that's why something like that makes me wonder just the entire time. I mean, he came back, you know, competed against OSP. Maybe that time around he possibly could have been using then, or maybe he second-guessed his performance. Daniel got in his head, said, "You're a bum, you look like shit," and maybe he was believing that. I mean, maybe Daniel really got in his head and some shit like that really happened. I mean, I've heard somebody talk about that recently today, but highly unlikely that is. But then again, you bring up the Chael Sonnen and JRE conversation. I mean, yeah, Chael definitely knows, like Jesse said, what he can and can't say. I know Chael Sonnen is good friends with Rashad. Rashad's still got great relationships with Jackson, with Coach Wink, of course, Phil Haas, a lot of the guys here. So if that's the information that he heard and he's going to stick to it, very rarely does Chael come about and say, you know, this is something that possibly is the case, because eventually we're all going to know the truth. And it's been proven, I know, here in Albuquerque, if you want to keep it based on like Tim Means, I know he proved that, you know, he had a banned supplement or something like that.
Yeah.
And then again, he got suspended for 6 months, and he's going to be fighting here soon. He's got a fight booked. But I know that Donald Cerrone's even said that, you know, if there's an issue with the supplement or there's something you're unsure of, you just take a picture of it and you send it to USADA, and then they'll tell you if you're good or not. It's simple as that. So this really just brings about a lot of questions. But then again, if it is John, you know, knowingly that he did it, that's highly unlikely, in my opinion. But then again, like I said, I reverted back to the powerlifting, the people that are around him in that gym. Maybe he trusted in them, took a supplement that they suggested. And, you know, John Jones is not a guy to make the best decisions. We all know that. So this is something where, you know, that could have been just on any given day. He may have took that supplement, and in the timing of when USADA decided they want to test him, that's when they came about and when it red flagged. So the big thing about it that really just sucked is whoever knew, whether they knew within a week or within a couple of days of that test being flagged, is they just kind of drug us along till 3 days before the biggest supposed event of the year of all time in MMA history. That kind of sucks, you know what I mean? Because yeah, John missed a big payday. I know his coach said that he missed like an 8-figure payday. I doubt he's going to get paid 8 figures, but I mean, that would be, you know, ridiculous if he was getting paid like $10 million. But that's something where, you know, John missed out on a big payday. We missed out on the fight as fans and people who cover the sport. But then again, it results in a UFC sale, all in the end come here Monday. So just draws a lot of question marks and then answers a few in the process. But many questions still unanswered at this point. So we know the UFC is sold, and going forward, we got an event Wednesday, and there's some great title fights lined up. So the UFC isn't going anywhere, and it's possibly bigger than it was a week ago. Guaranteed it is.
So especially as far as the value goes, I mean, ESPN immediately reported it. It was like, you know, biggest sports sale ever. So it's huge, man. It's huge, and if anything, just the fact that it's the biggest sports sale ever is gonna make it a bigger thing. Everyone's gonna be like, oh shit, what is it? All right, I gotta watch it. Gotta see what this is about. So, are they the NFL yet? No, not yet, not even close. But they've definitely put their stamp on the map for sure. All right, anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up here?
Hey, I kind of zoned in at the last minute here.
Okay.
What was your guys' like overall like, you know, how'd you guys feel about UFC 200 in the end? Like, were you guys happy with it or what?
Underwhelmed, man.
No.
The Kane fight, like I said, was legit. It was great. I didn't expect Kane to be able to fight like that. To be honest with you,
Mhm.
I expected him to be like stiff and way rustier than he was. But he threw wheel kicks, man. Wheel kicks to close the distance like
Yeah.
that was legit. Now was Travis Brown the best Travis Brown we've seen? No. Has the move to Glendale Fight Club fucked him over? Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
now we have proof like a motherfucker, right? He didn't throw not.
Yeah.
He threw like 3 kicks in the fight. Travis, like I think Dave was talking about earlier, Travis used to throw kicks all the time. Now he's just throwing hands, and they're awful hands. They're not. His striking used to be better. He leaves. And he was in New Mexico. He leaves New Mexico, goes over to Glendale, and all of a sudden his game sucks. Like so not that Kane was fighting the best guy, but Travis Brown picked the wrong time to be that bad against a Kane that's super focused, ready to go, and seemingly healthy, right? Then we get
Right.
to Jose Aldo against Frankie Edgar. Jose Aldo had a just legit ass performance. You cannot knock Jose Aldo for anything. That dude's
Yeah.
great.
Yes, you can. Don't say you
Why?
can't because
Why?
look at the last 2 rounds where he did a lot of his moving.
Running away.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah, like I don't know, like that performance kind of upset me because you could tell that he was leaps and bounds better than Frankie at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and he could have went in and ended the fight, but instead he chose to just dance around, move, and get away and not engage anymore. And
True.
that thing
True.
pisses me off to no end. It's like you have the ability to finish the fight. And I think what was the next fight? The next fight was the
Brock.
DC Anderson, right?
Yeah. DC Anderson. That was just a weird fight too.
And that to me is the reason why I think DC is losing out on fans because we clearly see that he's the better fighter. He could move into different positions from where he was, taking the fight, and he didn't. Instead, he just chose to kind of just lay on top of Anderson and throw these like baby little punches. In contrast, the next fight after that, where Brock was, moving, from full mount to side control to back to full mount and just trying to finish the fight however he could, continuing the pressure. That's not what we saw at DC, and I think that's why at the end of the DC fight, everybody was booing him because they saw that he was the superior fighter at that point, and he was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna cash a paycheck.
Yeah.
And it sucks because DC's a good fighter,
Yeah.
but he's just losing fans by just like he's bleeding them out because of these performances that he's doing and how he's acting.
Yeah. And before we get how Dave felt about UFC 200s, real quick, the prelims were great. I enjoyed the hell out of the prelims.
Yeah.
First fight of the main card, great. Last fight of the main card, as weird as that was, with Tate just not looking right at all, even before she got in the cage. But Nunez knocking her senses and then taking her back and choking her out. It was a great performance. So it was all right. By the way, fuck the fans that left for that main event. Like fuck you. If you were in the building and you left for the main event, you can go fuck yourself. Never go back to an event. We don't want you as fans. All right, kiss my ass. You know how many people would have loved to be in that building and watch the main event live? Like
Me?
yeah, me too. I'd have loved to fucking be there. And I would have sat my ass through the first cut and fight all the way to the main event. But people left after the Brock Lesnar fight, so they can go fuck themselves twice over. I don't give a shit. All right, sorry, I had to let that out. But Dave, how'd you feel about 200, man?
Yeah, I was kind of, mixed up a little bit on it. I was really, this card, I kind of rated it as, going into it, I felt the same way as the way it kind of played out fight by fight is it just presented and declared a lot of contenders moving forward because, the only title that officially changed hands cleanly and is an official champion now is Nunez. And we know that at the post-fight they had Venezuelan Vix in there. I think they're going to set up that fight. I think that's going to be the next fight in the women's division. They did have her at the post presser. They didn't have TJ Dillashaw there, so we know Dominic Cruz doesn't have a fight booked. So what it did is it just presented a lot of contenders in the division. Gegard Mousasi's on that list. He finished in impressive fashion. He's right there. But TJ Dillashaw definitely, he wasn't at the presser. I thought that was weird. Mark Hunt felt that he didn't throw any punches. I mean, that fight was the weirdest fight. I don't know if that fight was much more strange than like I said, the DC and Anderson fight was possibly the weirdest fight in history. But the Brock and Hunt fight was totally weird. I don't know what was going on there. Mark Hunt said he couldn't get out of first gear, but when have you not seen Mark Hunt, not throw hands in a fight?
Yeah.
So. Brock said he trained 1,000 rounds or 3,000 rounds, but we didn't see him go at it with Mark Hunt. So, but on a strange note, though, we've seen a lot of guys just go out there and showcase some nice knockouts. Joe Lozon, Gegard, But we've seen a couple guys, like Jesse said, Aldo cruise in the end to victory. So it's kind of 50-50. So like I said, and then it did Aldo, really win that fight. You know what I mean? Because he still got McGregor, and we don't know when that fight's going to happen. So he won. He has gold around his waist. That's just what Aldo's been known to have, gold around his waist. So it looked good to see him with that interim belt. That interim title sucks. We all know what's going to be the next fight for him. So, but I'm kind of mixed up on 200. Like I said, the only clean title change was Amanda Nunes, and I think the fight with Juliana Pena is going to line up pretty well, given that Holly Holm and Shevchenko are unimpressive. But hey, I got to go with Holly Holm. I think if Holly puts in work against Shevchenko, puts her out, Holly's right in the mix. So give it 2 weeks. We'll break down that card, and then we'll officially have a contender for that women's division going forward.
I think that's probably what they're going to wait for. They're going to see how Holly looks, and if Holly looks as dominant as she did before, I think they'll pop her right back in because they want gold around either her or Misha for when Ronda comes back. You know, they don't want somebody new having that belt because then they can't make that fight, or it won't be a sellable fight, So they definitely want to keep the belt around one of those two. But
yeah. Go ahead.
Back to what Dave was saying, I mean, TJ's performance was just so weird. It's just a guy, he was fighting a guy that, he basically beat the first time. So he knew what to expect from him. Plus, he had his new movement of style and everything. So I really thought that he was just going to dance circles around Assunção and, just piece him to pieces, But he did nothing like that. Like, it almost feels like he fought to the level of what Assunção was fighting at, and it wasn't as a high level as he could have been. And it just, like Dave said, I mean, there's so many weird performances that night. It's almost like the magnitude of UFC 200 broke a couple of these guys before they got into that fight, like the mental state wasn't there for them. Like Frankie Edgar, no adjustments made during his fight. He just kind of kept plodding forward, and then he got gun shy after a while, and you're just like, what happened? He did better in his first fight against Aldo than this fight. He started off good and then just stalled.
And then another thing to add to that fight too, Jesse, when you want to bring that topic up, like Frankie, the first time, Aldo threw plenty of kicks at him. In this fight, we didn't see any kicks from Jose Aldo.
I think one at the end of the third round that thundered off his leg, and then that was it. And it was the other way around. It was Frankie Edgar that was throwing the kicks at the beginning, and then he stopped. It was just such a weird, like I wrote on my comment. I was like, I was drinking, and then it was like it just got boring. It was just like, this isn't what I was expecting. I was expecting I don't know, something from that Fedor card, where they had a spider or something and some Cirque du Soleil people or something. It was I wanted something big. And by the way, did anybody mention the mat? Was that the ugliest mat you've ever seen in your entire life?
They've done it before, I'm pretty sure, but I can't remember when they did it. But they've done it before. But it distracted me the first couple fights, and then I got used to it. But yeah, you're right. What the fuck was that? And then real quick on the. Because I was talking to people I was watching the fights with, they were like, bro, this Brock Lesnar Hunt fight's so boring. But you're right, Brock was actually changing, going after positions and everything. Here's the reason why it was boring. Because we had just gotten done watching DC and Silva fight. Yeah. And that was kind of boring because of DC, honestly. And then before that, Jose and Frankie and everything. But, the fight, it was kind of like the fights lingered on. By the time we got to Brock and Hunt, we were just sick of watching people hunt people. We just want to see someone throw hands or something. I was hoping Hunt was going to throw something, and he couldn't or didn't, whatever he wanted to say happened. But by the time we got to Nunez Tate, it was like we're falling asleep, and I was like, boom, holy shit, what happened? You know what I mean?
I don't know if you heard what John Morgan said on his, his MMA Roadshow podcast. He said that by the time it got to the main event, he looked over at one of his colleagues and was like, man, I hope this is a first-round finish because I'm done. For MMA journalist to think, man, I hope this finishes quick because I'm done, that's not good. Your event's not going well if that happens.
And the crazy thing is, that weekend, the weekend started off with a bang. That Eddie Alvarez RDA card was bomb. It was sick. Moving on to Joanna vs. Claudia Gadelha. Kept that momentum going for the most part. Get to the prelims of 200, we're like, oh shit, here we go again, right? Lozon knocks out Sanchez. First time he's been knocked out by TKO or be finished by TKO by punches. And you get all these fights, Giga Mousasi knocking out Santos, and I show you yes, this is exactly what we wanted. Get to the main card, Kane knocks out Travis Browne, you're like, fuck yeah, and then we get to Frankie and Jose Aldo. Okay, all right, We can handle that one. That's fine. DC Silva just fucking hit rock bottom. Brock and Hunt, and then exactly the same thing. Like, please finish this fight quickly, Nunes or whoever, Tate, doesn't matter who, just fucking win. But people were leaving, and that sounds stupid to me. That if you're there, fucking deal with it. But yeah, you're right. The momentum really slowed down once we hit DC Silva.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And to close that, the closing argument or closing thing to mention, you guys, the UFC, they did have an ace up their sleeve. They possibly could have had 2 aces up their sleeve. I wanted to get your guys' take on what do you guys think? You guys all know Ronda Rousey was there. So depending on the outcome of the fight, say Misha took care of business. I mean, do they bring Ronda out? I mean, the other ace I'm mentioning was Bisping and Henderson being announced when Dana was on Fox. So they had plenty of aces available. That's why I thought that might be something where, hey, they might bring Ronda out. She's there for Travis, and then, hey, if Misha wins at 200. Possibly, but yeah, the Bisping Hendo matchup. What do you guys think?
You know, and I get what you're saying as far as like, you know, like something to excite the fans about. Hendo's 2 and 3 in the last 5 fights. This is basically a thank you for being such a bad motherfucker for so long, and please see if you can repeat what we did last time when you went flying through the air and unnecessarily as fuck punched a knocked out Bisping in the mouth with your full body weight coming down on your fist. First of all, I lost my shit when he did that. I was happy as hell. I mean, look, I'm a Bisping fan because I love the fact that he's honest about his shit talk and everything. He's saying what he means. But the fact that Hendo jumped in the air, flew like fucking Superman, and landed that right hand on his jaw was fucking awesome, okay? But outside of that, he didn't deserve the fight. We already know that, right? But you still want to see.
And then made that his logo?
Huh? Yeah, they made it his logo. It was the best part. You know what? Who was saying this shit? I think it was Rogan. I think it was saying it, no, it was Chael. Chael was saying that on Hendo's remote control for his television, when you turn off a TV, that logo pops up on his remote or on his TV, one of those. But it's fucking like, I was like, yes, Hendo, you are so allowed to do that shit for life. Just live it, dude, live it up. So this fight, he could knock out Bisping. He's done it before. Bisping, for some reason, wants this fight. I don't know why. Yeah, hey, whatever. You want to eat a fist? Go for it, right? But that's weird. And then what was the other thing you said? The Ronda thing. They've mentioned bringing a fighter in and bringing this guy into the cage and all that stuff. It never happens. Last time they did it, it was kind of like, you know. The last guy to try to do it was Frankie Edgar when, if you guys remember when at 189 McGregor beat Mendez in the second round, and Frankie Edgar came up and said, "Hey man, good job, but I want to fight you next. I want you next." And McGregor's like, "Yeah, we can do it, motherfucker. We can do it." That was as close as we've gotten since then. So had Misha take one, even then, I don't think they bring Ronda in. I do think they bring the camera, put it in her face. I mean,
yeah.
They put her face on the jumbotron on their big screen and get the whole crowd to freak out and like, oh shit, and then they can announce the fight right then and there. Because I mean,
man,
it's
stop. Just stop right there. Ronda ain't coming back. Come on.
No, no. Time out.
Unless she goes to a good camp, and I mean a legit camp, like I don't know anything besides where she's at right now.
Pretty much.
She ain't coming back. She's gonna get kicked in the face again. Everybody now knows. Just kick her in the face and it's over.
It's game, right? No, but I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying whether Ronda is not gonna come back or not. I'm saying whether they would have brought her in the cage or not. That's a different thing, right? But I think they put her face in the fucking. I think they put her face.
What are they gonna use her as a CM Punk thing, where like they just kind of show her and like, oh yeah, she's gonna fight. Oh, she's hurt again or something.
Yeah, dude, it's what does Brandon Schaub call it? Honey dicking. They're just honey dicking the fans. That's all it is. Honey dicking the fans over and over again.
And then to keep it on that Bisping fight though, it's pretty far out. So then again, do remember there's plenty of contenders to throw in there besides Henderson. So if he gets hurt, he doesn't make it, then Yoel Romero's off suspension in like 3 days.
Gegard.
There's a couple. Yeah, Gegard Mousasi's right in there, exactly, Eddie. And so don't think that Henderson and Bisping match is like set in stone, because I think Dan doesn't have a good track record of pulling out of fights. This is a huge one for him. I know he's going to do all he can to make it, but there's going to be a couple guys that they'll have as a backup plan, and the timing is good. That's just a little ways out for me though. I won't believe it till I see it and walk into the octagon. So. And
look, if he makes it, this is his last fight. That's it. Like he didn't retire last time.
It's a perfect fight though. It's a perfect fight for both of them. I mean, both guys have talked about retirement recently, so I mean, it's like perfect, you know.
This is Peyton Manning making it a Super Bowl and getting a chance to win it and retire on the top. So it's kind of what it is. Yeah. All right. If nothing else, here we're gonna call it a night here because I think it's late for all of us at this point. So Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Oh, there you go. Look at it, Jesse being a dad. There you go. The good feels to go to sleep, people. You can all go to bed feeling good about life. All right, you can follow Jesse Spawat 1983. It's SPW18 1983. Dave, as you can see on his little name tag there, it's at Dave's MMA Brief. There you go. And I'm at Elal31. The page is at CrossBonesMMA. The next show we have is actually Wednesday. Brand new show. It'll be a little different. I'll tweet the shit out of it on Twitter. You guys will see what we're talking about. But it's gonna be a brand new show, and you guys will be growing the show with us because we're just gonna go at it and see what happens. So. Again, thanks for tuning in to this one. We'll catch you guys during the fights. Obviously, we'll have the show during the fights, apparently. We'll figure something out. But fights on Wednesday. Enjoy it. After that, this weekend, for sure, get the fuck out of your house. You've been sitting at home watching TV all weekend, watching people beat the shit out of each other. Go outside. Even if you go beat the shit out of somebody outside, just don't kill anybody. But just get outside, all right? All right. And don't play Pokemon Go. Fucking stay off the street, you fucking psychos. All right. Everyone have a good night. We'll catch you later.
Peace out.